fell out of a second story window one night and hit my head. And traumatic brain injury. Started having panic attacks and insomnia, and things just progressively got worse. Yeah, bro, you're running on adrenaline and cortisol, and that feels good because it's familiar, because you're so deep in stress and you're so unaware of it because you're out of your body. He gave me what you're going to get in Western medicine. I got a pharmaceutical to help me sleep, and I got a immune suppressant to suppress my immune system.
Welcome to the Controlled Health Podcast, where we discuss topics on whole body wellness so that you can take back control of your health. Hello and welcome to the Controlled Health Podcast. If you have not been here before, my name is Andrea and I am your host. As always, please remember that anything that is mentioned in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please seek a healthcare professional if you have any questions or want to implement anything that is talked about. In today's episode, I got the pleasure of interviewing Mitch Webb. Mitch is a personal health coach for men and all those who are needing to find unique paths to healing. He has been a certified health coach since 2016. Mitch has been through so many health challenges, including Lyme disease, 2 traumatic brain injuries, long COVID, weight loss resistance, mold toxicity, and mental health challenges. After, like most of us who deal with chronic illness, he had gone to multiple doctors and could not find answers, which then drove him to do his own research and start his healing journey on his own. Mitch was able to find specific lifestyle choices that allowed him to heal himself and get his life back. Now, Mitch provides his coaching clients with deep compassion, expertise, and partnership which he longed for when he was going through his health challenges. Also, he has a special offer to all those who are listening. He is offering a free health assessment for 30 minutes via phone call, and you can sign up for that at his website. It's mitchwebb.com/contact. Again, it's mitchwebb.com/contact. I'll put it on the video and I'll also link it below in the show notes so you guys can find him. I'll also link his Instagram and any other social media that he has so you can find him. I hope you guys find this podcast encouraging, and if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Also, give this video a thumbs up, a comment, anything like that. It would definitely help us reach more people. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm here with Mitch, and I actually kind of wanted to share a little bit about how we met because it's super interesting. I actually service his family's business, and I was explaining to the woman at the desk that I had struggled with Lyme and mold, and she had told me you have to reach out to Mitch. He's experienced similar things, and he's a health coach now and all this stuff. So I was super excited to get in contact with him, and we chatted, and here we are. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, Mitch.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I think our first call was an hour and a half? It was supposed to be 15 minutes. Do you think we can top that this time?
Yeah. Let's see. So tell us a little bit about yourself now, kind of like where you're at, what you do, and then we can kind of get into how you found your way.
Yeah, so I am a health coach, and I found my way to being a health coach through my own personal health journey, and looking for answers to heal and to feel better. And what I saw was a lot of misinformation, a lot of BS, a lot of information that was hard to decipher for myself, and I wanted to make it easier for people. And so what I'm able to do, or what I love to do, is create personalized plans, individualized plans for people looking to, have a healthy lifestyle or improve their health. And that could be, as we know in the health industry, there could be lots of different avenues for that. And so what I like to do is listen to where the person's at, where they're trying to go, what they've been through, what's worked, what's not, and really hone in on what's the lowest hanging fruit, like what can we get the most benefit in, and get them going towards their goal of feeling better. And that may be things like personalizing their nutritional approach. That may be working on inflammation or autoimmune or sleep or environmental factors or their exercise program or detox or getting to the right doctor. Really, I'm kind of like I've been doing this for 20 years, healing me and healing other people or helping them heal themselves. And I just have a knack for, personalizing that for the individual.
I think that's really important because we're all so different. We have different environments. We have different people around us. We have different budgets. We have different mindsets, different traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And so one size doesn't fit all in the healthcare world. And that's kind of what we see in Western medicine is, oh, you have this symptom, here's this drug, or you have this problem with, let's say your thyroid, for example, let's just give you thyroid meds. And it's really like your gut's messed up and you need to heal your gut. So first, I just want to thank you for stepping into this health world because we need more people like you and me to help people walk through and take back control of their health, really. So when did you start to see your health decline?
Well, when I was about 20 years old, I felt I was traveling abroad. I was in Europe for a study abroad program. I was at the World Cup, and I fell out of a second-story window one night and hit my head. And traumatic brain injury, started having panic attacks and insomnia, and things just progressively got worse.
I had a traumatic brain injury too, and I don't really remember much at that point, but I definitely know that I had a hard time. I was like failing some classes because I was sleeping, and there were a lot of things like that. Yeah. So so after that, what happened?
So, I wasn't able to eat for like 2 or 3 days. I started having like really weird dreams and like kind of like vertigo and out of body experiences that were just really weird. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't go to the doctor. I was in a foreign country. I was afraid, and I guess I was looking back, I was ashamed. I was ashamed of drinking a bunch and being in a foreign country, and I was afraid I was gonna get in trouble if I told someone. So there's some trauma there. But I had insomnia. I started having panic attacks. I didn't know what anxiety was. I remember going to the doctor and saying, I just feel, trying to describe that. I think as people who have dealt with illness, you get really good at articulating what you're experiencing. I don't know if you experienced that, but I certainly was trying to say what was going on with me. And this guy writes on a piece of paper the word anxiety. He's like, this is what you have. And I don't even remember. I didn't even know what that word was, to give you an idea of who I was before this. And about 6 months after that, broke out in plaque psoriasis over my entire body. So that's an autoimmune disease, started flaring up. And so, within a year, they basically gave me what you're going to get in Western medicine. I got a pharmaceutical to help me sleep, and I got a immune suppressant to suppress my immune system.
So at that time, did you link it to the traumatic brain injury? Or you were just like, I don't know what's going on with my body?
I was like on tour with Widespread Panics. I'm a big music fan. I was selling t-shirts, and I didn't wear a lot of clothes back then. We were like barefoot and shirts off most of the time. And I assumed that I definitely didn't understand the relation between the anxiety and the head injury and the skin. I thought I had poison ivy. I didn't know what was going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I had a different experience with the anxiety. Like, I think I told you a little bit about this before, but I get like internal shakes. And I was trying to explain that to my doctor. I'm like, look, I'm not thinking, I was like, I know when I'm anxious, like I've been anxious before. I know what it feels like to have this symptom. This is completely different. Like I'm just hanging out, and then all of a sudden it's just like my body starts vibrating and I don't know. And then my heart rate goes up, and then like all these symptoms start to just cascade, and they would just push anxiety meds on me. And I'm like, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, well, maybe it is anxiety. Maybe I do need to see it. Maybe I do need this. And I would go and I would see a therapist and all those things. And it ended up not working too well. But I know I had told you that
The
I
therapy didn't
recently,
work too well. Is that what you were talking about?
the therapy.
Yeah, is that what didn't work too well?
Yeah, I mean, to a point.
Mm.
I was going to just like a regular therapist. I really started to see change. Well, I wouldn't say change, but I saw improvements when I started seeing a biblical counselor for myself, and we dug deep into my my shame and my sin and all of that stuff, and that's what really changed the game for me mentally, at least. But it didn't help my my symptoms, so I was like, "There's something else wrong." But I had told you recently that those shakes came back, and I started upping my B vitamins, and they're gone now. So I was like, and my B vitamins were low on my blood work recently. So I'm like, okay, interesting, okay. And I mean, I could correlate. Like, I am stressed, and so it's probably depleting my B vitamins, and it's making me anxious, and I need, all those things. But let's get back to you. So you,
One thing I wanted to highlight. Now you
yeah,
said so you know how we were talking about anxiety, and you're like, this is different.
hmm,
So for me, and I've realized this now through therapy is I was definitely nervous as a kid, but the difference was the felt sense, the actual physical sensation of anxiety in my body. That's how it was
mm,
different for me. I'm wondering if that correlates for you.
maybe,
Yeah,
possibly,
yeah.
yeah. I
I
mean,
was nervous. It's almost like I kind of look at trauma like a cup, right? Kind of like I look at
mm,
detox. Your cup's
hmm,
full, and then it's almost like you're managing it with whatever um, survival techniques you have from at the time
right,
until it kind of pops. It becomes too much,
hmm,
and then we start to get physical sensations. And there's something else. Oh yeah, and like the sensation in your body. It's interesting now, like looking at that as that used to freak me out, like the heart rate going up, the breath tightening, the chest tightening, maybe the gut even. And now I'm just like, oh, that's what my nervous system is doing, and what we're talking about there is like switching from being afraid of it to accepting the sensation for what it is that my
yeah,
nervous system, that's just the state of my nervous system right there. It doesn't mean that something is bad. It just is. And that's something that's helped me. And I've been thinking a lot about here recently. So just wanted to share that for anybody that's going through it. I think one of the biggest things that I can say about anxiety is to sit with it, to know that that's your body trying to communicate with you. And really, instead of getting afraid, it's like, can we be curious and follow it and see, like, what color is it, where is it at in my body, what's the sensation
mm,
like, what like you said, the buzzing, that's really good. And maybe how does it want to express itself? Is there a noise that wants to come out? Is there a
yeah,
pushing away? The body is so intelligent, and it's always trying to communicate with us. And so that just little switch from something's wrong, and even oh, okay, I think something's wrong, and then slowing it down, my heart's beating fast, my breath's tightening, I'm feeling anxious. And then if you can go into that, I think there's a lot of wisdom there.
okay, yeah. Now I've got two things. So when I was seeing a counselor, she had mentioned, because I would wake up in the middle of the night, um, feeling like I was going to pass out, and my
Yep.
heart rate would be 170. And she mentioned, she's like, that used to happen to me when she had something traumatic happen to her, and she said, I acknowledged it. She said she would even talk to it. She like,
Yeah.
hi anxiety, like, hi, this is
Hey.
like
Yeah.
anxiety. um you can be here, like, I know you'll pass.
Yep.
and and that actually helped me a lot, just
Yep.
talking to that feeling. And like you said, talking to myself, okay, grounding yourself almost
Yep.
too helps.
Yep.
But it's interesting. So what would happen when I would get those symptoms though? Something would trigger me, like a smell, or
Mm-hmm.
and then my mind would spot, oh, I'm this is toxic, and it became like everything in my world became toxic to me. Like I became sensitive to everything in my world. I couldn't pump my own gas because the gasoline gave me hives. It became this huge, and that's when I started the brain rewiring and realized how much fear can control our symptoms, especially when we've been chronically exposed or chronically stressed or all of these things. Our body's just like, I can't do it anymore.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I can second that. There was until like even last year, when I started unpacking trauma, things often get worse before they get better. It's a good sign. Like, oh, you're having more anxiety and you're waking up in the middle of the night more. Great. That's a good thing. And that sense of like existential danger, that is something I've been learning about even just this week, in how whenever we are young, I hope I can say this right, whenever we're young, when we don't have certain needs met when we're a kid, we look at our environment and we would say we have environmental failure, right? So we didn't get attuned to, we didn't get unconditional love, we didn't get safety, we didn't get our, physical needs met. And so because we having to us, that's almost like being kicked out of the tribe. And we can't look at it's so devastating for us to look at our caregivers and say, you didn't give this to me. So we look at ourselves. And so then we start to think that I'm bad. And then everybody and everything is out to get me. And so that's something that we carry with us until we're ready to unpack that and look at that and create more safety from an adult perspective. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I was talking with another girl on my last podcast, and she was talking about how she didn't remember her childhood, and I'm in the same boat. I don't remember half of my childhood. There's a little clips here and there, and from most of the professional psychologists and people that I speak with, they say that's a form of trauma. Your brain just completely tries to blank out all of those memories. And I even had that happen too when I was around like 19 to like 21. It was just like I had blinders on. Like I can't even remember that part of my life. I was just like on autopilot.
Well, it makes sense though. Like if what's going on there, because this is something I've just went through myself, or I'm very familiar with, is survival stress. So we're in survival stress our whole subconsciously, right? So you may cognitively say I'm safe, but like deep down there's a knowing that we're unsafe, right? And so when we're in that survival stress, our prefrontal cortex gets turned off, our creativity goes down. And so when we look back on those memories, we either don't remember. A lot of times I remember like the negative emotions or how I felt crappy that day or something like that. And so that makes perfect sense. And I'll say this for the listeners too. This is something that just happened to me. It's pretty awesome. It's also kind of scary. So like through doing a lot of this somatic work, all of a sudden, and trauma work and cognitive therapy and not DMT. It was
DNRS.
EMDR. I did DNRS too, but EMDR is more like trauma therapy. And so what happened all of a sudden, I was in Hawaii like 5 weeks ago. I get there, it is paradise, it's beautiful, and I just collapsed like no energy. Everything was dark. And I could hardly even talk. I was like this. And what I'm learning is that was coming out of survival stress for the first time in my life. So someone who's been in fight or flight, been in survival, like danger response, for the first time, my body goes, oh, we're in vacation. We're in paradise. Like we're going to relax here. And, we're going to rest. And for like the last 4 to 6 weeks, this is the first week that I'm actually able to get on a podcast and talk. Like I have been earthing, grounding, laying in the sun, drinking water, salt water, eating really good, and just complete surrender. And I wouldn't have done that it really freaked me out. I thought I was going back into like chronic fatigue. And luckily I've got a lot of good mentors around me that were like, nah, bro, like you're coming out of fight or flight. Your nervous system is recovering. Like you got to surrender. It's really hard for us type A's that have had a stressor come in and we've learned how to respond to it with our toolkit of supplements and detoxes and diets. And this is not the time when you start to experience it. It feels like being in the mud. My therapist would call it the I don't know. And she's like, oh, you don't know what's going on and you feel like you're in mud. She's like, awesome. That means you're healing. I'm like, crap. And so I had to learn to sit with that fatigue. And I'm getting chills as I say it because I feel better now. It's profound coming out of that. And it feels like a psychedelic experience to be human now. I don't know if that even makes any sense. What I'm trying to say is, here comes all my description. It feels like connecting to everything and like touching and feeling everything all at once with connection, with safety. That's what it is. It's connection and safety and like, yeah, coming out of that.
You're just like finally aware of everything. Like,
yeah. I've had bits and pieces of that, but it's like more sensation is on board. It's
clouds finally.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's like for some, you know the deal. Like I've been doing this for 20 years, man, working on my health, and it's like somebody gave me a get out of jail free. It's not out of jail free, but it's out of jail.
So I have not experienced that yet, but I do know some people that I follow on Instagram. They always talk about, you know, doing the trauma and brain retraining and how they would get so fatigued doing it.
So fatigued. Yep.
I've gotten to a point where if I do get fatigued, I do embrace it and I do set boundaries. I'm like, okay, like I just need to rest. My body needs to rest. I don't need to climb this mountain today. And I've definitely learned to listen to my body. I think that was a big part of my healing journey, was just listening to my body. I would go, you know, running on caffeine and barely any calories for years.
Oh, and yeah. Well, when you're in that, I'm going to stop here. I don't mean to interrupt, but that's something that I've heard a lot about from Irene. Irene Lyon, that's my girl. She's my mentor. And she talks about how, you know, we had that fasting keto craze where it's like carbs are the devil. And if you are in functional freeze, which I think a lot of the population is, meaning what is in here has been so intense that I leave my body and I retreat into my head to try to figure everything out, right? To create some form of safety. Is that fasting that we did, it makes us feel good if we are frozen. So what's going on there? Okay, so your circadian rhythm is going to make melatonin's coming down, cortisol's coming up, and so what am I going to do? I'm going to drink some coffee. I'm not going to eat, which that eating would bring that cortisol down and balance your hormones. So instead, I'm going to drink coffee. I'm going to throw in 2, 3, if you're like me, 400 milligrams of caffeine. Now I feel good. And if I go to 2 o'clock, I feel amazing. Yeah, bro, you're running on adrenaline and cortisol. And that feels good because it's familiar, because you're so deep in stress and you're so unaware of it because you're out of your body. And so we like, that's what I did for so long. Oh my God, I feel amazing. I'm just going to fast the rest of my life. But it makes so much sense that we feel good and enjoy that. 2 things. Are we in a functional freeze, or you got gut issues that you're ignoring?
So I'm thinking about my mom. She's got she was in the military. So she has a lot of mental instability, but she recently, over the past maybe like 2 years, I've seen her mental health decline a lot. Unfortunately, she's living in mold still. I know that doesn't help, but she also just goes to work and comes home. She doesn't eat very well either, but so, you know, like Alzheimer's, dementia, I definitely think it's you know, diabetes type 3.
Brain diabetes,
I think what we're talking about contributes to that too, because especially in America, we are just running ourselves past our end point and always being completely disassociated from everything. My mom, like, that's what my mom's like. I'm always disassociated. Like, I don't think I've ever been like in the moment. And I've noticed like she can't. She's having a hard time reading. She's only 57.
Wow.
But she's having a hard time reading now. And she's starting to, like, the way she speaks is just a little concerning. And I'm like, Mom, and she's been seeing a therapist for like 3 years, and they got her on antidepressants and sleeping pills because she can't sleep and nothing's working. And I'm just like, Mom, you have to do the hard work.
Well, when I hear that, it's like, that's why I do what I do, because you've got someone who's mentally unwell, who's having symptoms, and it's getting worse, and it's multiple things. And she's doing some really good things. She's going to therapy, she's getting help, but there's all these other things. There's a major thing of the fishbowl analogy, like we're in the dirty fishbowl, right? So let's get out of the environment. Let's detox. Let's start eating better food. But when you're in that environment, it's like you can't. That's you've identified with the dirty fishbowl.
Absolutely.
And it's to step outside of something we've done habitually. You got to really want it, people. And that's why also people have to be ready to change, because for me, I realized that change is not hard. Change is something I've done. I'll do anything for my health, right? And so if that means trying a new diet, trying whatever, I have no problem with that. But I realize it's tough for other people. And so that's where, with someone like your mom, it wouldn't be like, hey, let's do all these things at one time. It would be looking at the situation and going, here's our next step. Here's how we get out. I mean, let's get you out of the environment, let's whatever, but that may be too much for her, it's
yes. I had to literally, so when I moved, her bed was like 35 years old.
Wow.
I said, take my bed, because it was only like 2 or 3 years old. And she finally took my bed. And, but she also, like, our dog died, like all these things happened. I moved. So there was a lot of things that all happened at once. And she had a really traumatic childhood. Her dad was very abusive. And of course, we see like that generational trauma too, coming down to me.
That's why it's so harder as we get older. It compounds. It's the generational stuff that everyone in our family has, and that we can see now that we've been through that, but they can't see it, right? It's the environment. I mean, and as we get older, that baggage that we're carrying gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and dude, this is crazy too. The pain is so familiar that we stick with it because that's what we know.
Yep.
And we're so afraid of. I mean, I've had experiences with my mental health, like through this last almost 2 years now of trauma work, where I'll have such a profound shift in, like, let's say, energy levels, and I will almost miss the fatigue because I don't know what to do without it. Right. And it's just the letting those pathways unwire, or I don't know, die off, I guess, lessen. And where the new pathways come in, and it's like we have to. That's tough. That's tougher as we get older. Like, I know that if someone has trauma and they're young, they can get over it really quick. But as we get older, it gets harder, because with those grooves, we get so set in our ways. It's kind of like, have you been skiing, snow skiing?
I've never even seen snow.
What? Okay. Well, for the listeners then. It's like when we go skiing, at the end of the day, the same routes have been taken, and they're so deep that you pretty much have to go there.
Right. And that's how our brain works.
Yeah, and like but that's where also neuroplasticity can come in at any time, whether that's through exercise, psychedelics, doing something new, supplements, different forms of therapy. And it's like bringing in a fresh snow, and now we can kind of decide, or make the ground very fertile for new connections and new decisions. And that's really what it is. A lot of therapy is cognitive, and some of it I don't want to say a lot of, some of it's cognitive. I think it's more body based, but it's uncovering. Here it is. It's not, I hope this makes sense, but it's not what's wrong with you. It's what happened to you or didn't happen to you, and how did you adapt to that you're bringing to survive, to get love, to have safety, and how have you brought that into adulthood. And so once I can observe that, oh, I didn't get attuned to something I learned about me recently. I didn't get attuned to very well emotionally. And so I have a really hard time trusting my body trying to communicate with me, if that makes sense. But it's like being able to see these patterns, and then once we can see them, that may be all that you need, is just to spot them. And other times there's more work required. But really, the fun part is when you're a week or a day later, and the old pathway, the old habit comes up, and you can see it, and you kind of smile and wave and keep driving, because or like, that doesn't feel like me, and that's telling me, oh wow, new connections are being made. That old habit is weakening, and I'm making progress. I know it's a long way of saying that, but
no. So just to give an example, this has nothing to do with trauma, but just with my own life and getting things done. I used to leave dishes in the sink all the time. Or like my laundry. Oh, I hate laundry. I used to put it in the washer, put it in the dryer, and then leave the laundry for, 9 to 10 business days, right? I said, you know what? This only takes 3 minutes. Just do it. Right when it's done, just do it. And I would do it. And I'm now to a point where it's not sitting on the floor. I created that new behavior, new neural pathway, new habit, to where there's no dishes in the sink and there's no clothes on the floor for 10 days. So that doesn't really have anything to do with the trauma, but just
it may be. That's the thing is, dude, with the trauma stuff, it may be that it goes so deep. It's like what we think if you start to recognize that simple pattern, and yeah, it's a simple example, but why do you have resistance to it in the first place, right? And I'm curious about this. Did you have resistance the first time you did the laundry? Were you like, oh, this is so hard? And then did it feel better later?
So like I said, my childhood was a little bit messy, and I moved in with my mother when I was 10, but I lived with my grandparents, so they did everything. But when I moved in with my mother, she was very absent, so I was, cooking my own food, doing my laundry, but I would throw it in the washer, throw it in the dryer, and then just, like, you couldn't even, like, open the door to my room when I was a kid, because there's just everything was on the floor. And my grandpa, he was still alive, and he'd be like, you need to pick up your room, and it would be like that for months, and then all of a sudden I'd get, like, that ADHD urge and just, like, clean everything, and then it would end up like that again. But now, like,
so there is a cord to childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it always is, and that's like the example of, like, trauma is such a big scary word, and it's not necessarily, we got big T's and little T's. You can kind of say that, and that takes a little weight off of it. But that's the thing is, like, it's not about the trauma. It's not about the thing that didn't or did happen. It's about the dysregulation that we experience after that, and those patterns of survival or getting what we need. That's the result of trauma. Whether it's and it can be so simple. For me, I thought, who am I to look? I mean, I remember reading The Body Keeps the Score and getting to the childhood section and just, like, going, who do I think I am to say my childhood was bad? My parents provided for me financially, physically, put a roof over my head. My mom cooked meals for me, took care of me. But it could be just like, it's the child's brain that's interpreting this information. And so you're looking at it from a young person's perception, and it's whatever they felt in that moment. It's not bad. It's just, it's going to happen to everybody, and it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to unpack that and to work on that, especially if it's affecting you in your adult life. But it takes a lot of investigation sometimes to find that, because it was not evident to me. Even though I look back now and see childhood trauma as the catalyst for the chronic disease that I experienced. But I just thought I had trauma from, head injuries and car accidents and, mold, living in a house of mold and illness. And that was just side effects. That was really my body trying to get my attention, to say, hey, I think it's an amazing thing that we get to feel this stuff. I think it's a gift. Chronic disease is a gift, because everybody else in your family has felt that or dealt with those type of symptoms, but they didn't want to feel it. So they numbed it and suppressed it and avoided it. We get to wake up and recognize that and heal it because we feel it so intensely. And go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, and I was going to finish that with, it is your opportunity to heal you and your whole family. So absolutely. I think it's a gift from God to say, and your body is going to keep, dude, with me, how many times did I have to get hit on the head to wake up and go, all right, man, what do you want me to do? And I would have never, I would still be an asshole, closed-minded brat if I hadn't been humbled by all of this illness. And now that I'd say last week you asked me, I think I said 7, I'd say I'm 80% this week, greatest gift I could have ever given. It sucked. I don't want to, it's the greatest gift that I never want to do again.
Yes. So that I'm picturing when I was in the emergency room and they were like, you need to see a cardiologist, and they ended up diagnosing me with POTS, and I was pretty much completely debilitated at that point, and I didn't know up from down, and I was scared to go to sleep because the anxiety was so bad. I mean, now that anxiety that I had, I couldn't leave the house.
Terror.
I couldn't. Oh my goodness, I was all the time, every second of the day. It was just complete.
Oh, yeah. I've been there, man.
And so I was laying in bed, and I would have my mom come into the room with me to go to sleep. And, I'm like a 23-year-old woman, like, need my mom to, but I was like telling her all the symptoms that I'm like, I can't feel my feet. Like, my heart is just beating out of my chest, and like all of these symptoms. And she goes, oh yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Oh my God. Like, yeah.
I wanted to strangle me this.
That same thing with me is I came home from college. Happens to me all the time. I'm writing that down because that hit me like a train too. So I came home from college after the head injury, and I couldn't be in public. I would say I was terrified to go to sleep. I was abusing alcohol and whatever I get my hands on to knock me out. And I remember looking at my mom, and my aunt is an alcoholic, and I said, I know why my aunt drinks. And she goes, why? Yeah. I said, because she's afraid, because she has anxiety. And she's like, oh, what makes you think that? I'm like, because I got it now. I get it. And it's so sad that most people are dealing with that stuff. Most people, trauma doesn't
unbiased.
Discriminate. It doesn't discriminate.
Yes, discriminate. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's gonna keep coming. It's gonna keep bringing you new opportunities to see the wound. And until you're ready to wake up and accept that challenge, you're just gonna keep getting your butt kicked. In my opinion.
That's kind of what changed my view on what I was experiencing. At first I'm like, why me? What is happening? I was, begging for a miracle. Lord, just allow me to wake up in the morning and I'll be back to how I was. And the Lord was like, I don't want you back the way you were.
Yeah, dude.
I want you different. And that's kind of when I accepted. I'm like, okay, all right, Lord, this is what you've given me. Now let's figure it out. Let's do the hard work. And that, I think my mom's ready for that. She's allowed me to start helping her with her diet, which I think is a huge step.
Makes huge difference.
Yeah. And so she's done it before. I know she can. She's very disciplined if she is wanting to do something, and she's really seeing, okay, well, my kids are getting older. I want to see my grandkids. Like, that why in her life has become stronger of like, I have a will to live now. Like, I need to do this. So
I love it. It's awesome that you get to
unfortunately,
share that with her.
yes, unfortunately, we can't really. The mold situation is really hard. She's almost done paying off the house, so she's like, I can't. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but let's at least support your body the best we can while you're in the mold. So
One thing you were talking about, and I love that you shared that and are able to help your mom. I think that's pretty cool. But there's one thing that we were talking about that I want to highlight for the listeners, because this is I mentioned this book a little bit earlier, but when we're talking about symptoms, we have to symptoms are going to be all over the place, and if we chase symptoms, then we're just going to be chasing our tail. We want to get to the root.
yes,
And this book is called Complete Self-Help for Your Nerves. It's by Dr. Claire Weeks. This book was a gift. It found me. It's from like the 1940s, 50s. But the cool thing about this book, for those struggling with, she calls it nervous breakdown. I think that's the term they used for women back in the day, like nervous breakdown, nervous illness,
hysteria. Yeah,
hysteria for sure. And I'm reading this and I'm like, this is all me. I don't think it's for guys too. But
that's what I was like. I had a mental breakdown. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's a tired nervous system, right? And then she lays out all the symptoms that are possible if you have nervous illness, anxiety, depression, insomnia, like all this stuff. And that was very validating. I felt very seen and heard. And it was like, oh, these symptoms are all normal. One thing that I love that she does is goes, hey, try to make it worse. So what we're always trying to do is we're trying to control it by thinking our way to safety and trying to do all the things that we know. And you want to have your tools and use them, use resources. I think medications are even great if you need them for a short period of time while you're learning how to accept these symptoms. So what she says is you face it. So a lot of times you'll notice, like if you have that sensation, you almost want to like kind of get away from it. You want to go right into it, sit with it, explore it. It is your best friend coming to save you. And so you want to listen to what that best friend's got to say. You want to watch those symptoms it's like she calls it floating. It's like you just let your body go. Because a lot of time if we're in fear and we're fearing the symptom, we're tense, right? So you want to notice that tension and let it go, let all the tension out of your body and just watch it and accept it completely. And like we were talking about it earlier, but watch the symptom and just be curious instead of being fearful. And that book was huge for me when going through this. And I think if the quicker people can recognize, oh, this is my nervous system, it's tired, it's worn out, it makes sense, these are the symptoms, oh, I can see them all. It's when I started doing that, I had a couple more really intense anxieties come in, panic attack-ish kind of things. It's like learning to sit in the fire. You know when you're oh my god, you know when you get in the car and you don't put your seatbelt on, it's just beep 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 beep. It's annoying. it's learning. My wife's car doesn't even let you get out of the driveway. It's like, hey, you gotta get your seatbelt on, and it just goes crazy. It's learning to be able to sit in that beeping car and not care. And you get so familiar with those, and so you get so familiar with those symptoms and have faced them and accepted them so much that you just don't care about them anymore. What'll happen is they'll start to come less frequently and less intense after that. That book, game changer. Again, it's I just had it up. Complete Self-Help for Your Nerves. Dr. Claire Weeks.
This made me think of a sermon that I listened to once, and it was talking about fear and how lions will get their prey to actually run in the direction they want. So what they would do is they'd have the old lion that doesn't have any teeth. They would have him sit, somewhere on the opposite side, and they would have him roar. And then the young lions that could actually attack and kill the animal would be hiding in a bush somewhere. So if the lion on this side would roar, the animal would run this way, and then the lion would be able to eat it. But the whole thing of the sermon was you have to run towards the roar. You have to
Yes.
run towards the lion that you're afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said just reminded me of that. And I think when you look at people, you can tell people have a dysregulated nervous system by the way they respond to things in their life or
Mm-hmm.
in your life too. So let's say I tell I'm going to move. Oh, well, that, how you can drive, you can fly, like, oh, that's a lot of money. And they just like start doing all these negative loops, like fear, and they almost like put their fear on you. That's what I've experienced with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
A lot is I say something that I'm like super excited about, and then she just douses this fear on me.
Watch out! Don't forget that if you do that, then this is going to happen. Yeah.
Yep. Or what about this? Or you need that, and that's not possible. You have to, and it's like whoa, like let's cross that bridge when we get there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
you're right.
so I just thought that was interesting.
It reminds me too. I love the lion story. I've heard that one, and it's the buffalo. And when I've been through tough,
Yeah.
I keep that on my phone. This picture of the buffalo with like ice all over it, and it's like the buffalo is the only animal I think in the animal kingdom. I maybe don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
That runs towards the storm because it knows if it goes through it, it's going to get through it faster instead of trying to avoid it. And I did that. I was a professional avoider, suppressor,
Yep.
number my whole life, and now I'm learning like I gotta. It's just my body, man, and it's asking to be healed. It's asking for my attention. It's communicating, and I think that goes with what I try to teach is that nobody can heal you. You heal yourself. There's guides and people that have been there before that can say, "Hey, watch out for this and this," and not in a fearful way, but like be prepared for this. And when this happens, this is what's going on. And having that lifeline, I think, is a huge benefit for the clients that I work with. It's what I wish I had when I was going through all this. Like I got chronic illness and I don't know what's going on, and I just want some answers and some feedback and some guidance. But ultimately, the journey is listening to your voice, and when you can do that, that's when things start moving really fast.
When I first got diagnosed with POTS and I started doing research and learned that it was a nervous system disease, I was like, all right, let's see what else. And then I learned about mast cells and brain retraining and all of these things, and how fear and anxiety cause so much chronic illness. And then on top of that, like we said, like the bucket just overflows, and then you're living in mold, which makes your nervous system hypervigilant anyways. And then and then living or having those traumas and stuff like that. So what when did you, because I know you've experienced mold, what was that kind of like through your, let me rephrase this, how was that part of your journey?
So gosh, let me think about this. So yeah, I had TBI in college, left with some prescription drugs, really changed my diet, got into eating organic I had a roommate in college that was just a big stoner, and he was just like, you need to eat organic food, man. And I was like, what is that? And before too long, we were going to the co-op and looking for local organic food. And I realized that the better I felt, or the better I ate, the better I felt. And so I just really got into nutrition and found the paleo diet, found like bulletproof coffee was a huge home run for me. I think it's probably because it's low in inflammation and just giving me some healthy fats. And my gut was probably off too, so skipping that meal might have helped. But so I was making all these changes. I was weaning myself off of some of the medications that were helping me with anxiety and sleep. And I've moved into this community of a lot of like-minded, like loving people. And I really learned how to cook there. There was lots of local, grass-fed beef. I got into grass-fed beef and buying local and all the farms and everything. I mean, it was just awesome. And I think that was huge for my nervous system too, was that community support. And I was like, oh, I'm going to kick this thing's butt. Like I'm done, and all of a sudden that's when we moved into this house. So it was Clemson University. That's one of the worst cases of black mold that they have seen. And about 3 months after living there, I could not sleep whatsoever. I would just be up all night long. And for a while, I asked some friends for like stronger anxiety medications, and they worked for a little bit, and they quit working. And I got really scared because, at that time, I thought that's just what you do is you just take more medication. So I'm taking Klonopin, I'm taking Xanax.
Right.
Certainly, I'm drinking and smoking pot at the time too. So I'm doing everything I can to just suppress this anxiety. And before, I also had Lyme at the same time. Okay, so like Lyme and mold, but I think what came first, the chicken or the egg? The Lyme came out as a result of living. We talked about this in our call. The Lyme came out as a result of living in that environment with the mold. It suppressed my immune system. Lyme's an opportunistic pathogen, and so, but the symptoms are very close. So, like before too long, I was very lucky to have this community of people, and one of the guys kind of took me under his arm and was we really helped each other. But he showed me how to exercise, and I was using that to fight a lot of the anxiety I was dealing with. And so after my workouts, I would just lay on ice the rest of the day. So I had really bad joint pain. I wasn't sleeping, and I started having like hallucinations from not sleeping that much. And I would get lost driving to work in my hometown where I grew up. And it was just, I mean, it would take me one of my gifts at that time was I found nitro cold brew coffee, because that's like the only thing that would I don't know if you remember, like they made like nitro cold brew in a can, and they're like 200 milligrams, and I would drink like 2 or 3 of those, and I was good until about lunchtime, and I would start the girls that were like working with me, they're like customer service managers, I would interact with them to get work. I was in sales, and they would tell me that I would call like 3 or 4 times in a row to tell them the same thing, and they were just like, "Oh, Mitch is not doing good," So so much was happening that I even wasn't aware of. So it's anxiety, inflammation, cognitive function, joint pain. That's kind of what's going on with me with the mold.
So who had told you mold, or how did you find out like about mold? Because I just moved into this new apartment and I haven't been sleeping, and I'm a little afraid that there's mold here.
Yeah, I would say that I would check that out to be sure, but your limbic system could kind of just be on. I heard you say DNRS. So your limbic system could kind of just be on alert from being in a new environment. Whenever we travel, half of our brain is asleep and half of it's awake. My guess would be that to check that out first and see if you can do maybe some DNRS stuff to calm that down, or speak with your I don't know if it was a preacher, a pastor, a therapist, or whatever. That may be good, but I think check that out and then have somebody come in and do like a mold test. And that's how I found mine. So Dave Asprey, Bulletproof Coffee, he had just done the documentary Moldy. So if anybody's wants to learn more about mold, that's a great document for it. To like kick that thing off, that documentary off, they did a free at-home mold test, and I just said, what the hell, and grabbed it and tested and saw that my numbers inside my home were exponentially higher than what was outside of the home. What you want to see is the same, I don't know, bacteria or molds inside the house as outside the house, but they're going to be way higher outside. And so if they're higher inside, that's basically saying that you have mold. And and so I did that home mold test, and then we had them basically. So I showed my landlord the test results, and they moved us out. They said they renovated the house in air quotes, and all they did was ran like ozone through the ducts. They didn't do anything. So when I moved back, I felt better. I moved back in. Symptoms are back immediately. I felt like I was crazy. They were telling me I was crazy. And then one day I moved a refrigerator, and water shoots up out of the floor, and I'm like, what is that? And I start ripping like layers and layers and layers of black mold up. It's in my kitchen.
That is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, it's in my kitchen. It's in my bed, and like then it was on. But I moved out like that night, and was thankful to be out. But I would to put your mind at ease, I would have somebody come. You're in Winston-Salem, right?
I'm in like Advance.
So like I think it's called Advanta Clean. is a company. And I think there's better companies, but that's who came and did mine. I'd have them come out and do like, sometimes they'll do it for free because they want the business. So
Yeah,
have them come
well,
out, check things out.
I am in an apartment. They're relatively new. Not that that doesn't mean that there can't be mold, but I think I had a lot of things happen. I had went down to Florida. I was exposed to my old moldy home,
That's right. You
and
told me.
then my hormones are really out of balance.
So that can
I'm
do it too.
Yeah, so I'm trying to not stress and say, okay, it's mold. I'm trying to say, because normally when I walk into an environment and there's mold, I feel it. Like I
Yeah,
get
yeah. I would think so too. But like that's that existential something bad is going to happen, or like everybody's out to get me feeling, right? It's like I had that with EMF too, to where
yes.
when we moved out of the house with mold, and I got better, moved out of that house, and then we moved to Durham, bought a new house, and I couldn't sleep, right? And looking back, I don't know if I created this or if I was actually reacting to that, because that's what we do. We can, our brains will come up with some type of story and something
Right.
to be afraid of, and typically it's whatever's in our environment. That does not mean that that is the root of it. That's just something to make us feel more safe, because we logically try to figure that out and think our way to safety. And so I had that with EMF, and I had to have specialists. I mean, I slept in tents. I had them rewire our house. Whenever I move into a new house, I have them do that anyways now. But like
Yeah.
that feeling of something is not okay, I don't care what it is that you think it is, and if there is mold even in there or not. I'm not saying like you're crazy, it's in your head. I'm just saying that sensation in your body is going to drive a lot of everything, a lot of stress. Everything's going to go up and off. So it's like, where would I go? It's one I would see. Hey, let's rule out the mold. It could be EMF, mold. I'd rule those two things out. And while you're doing that, if you are familiar with DNRS, that's working directly with the limbic system, and you
Yeah.
can start to calm things down that way. And
Yep.
we could even talk about offline. I could help you. What's called like in trauma, what we'll do is work with a sensation, and it's called like titrating between what's painful and what's pleasant. And so what you would do with that is you sit and you start to notice your breath. You notice your butt in your chair. You notice your back against the chair. You just really watch your breath without changing it. And what's that's going to do? You know how like if you've been stressed and you get to the end of the day and you try to get in bed, like everything comes up. So that's because we've been suppressing it and avoiding it. So you want to sit with it and tune into your breath so those sensations come up. And you don't want to create something, and you don't want to like chase something, but like you could even bring the thought in and kind of bring it up, okay, why do I don't feel safe in my environment? And then notice, where do I feel that in my body, right? So maybe you notice that buzzing sensation that you described earlier. So I'm feeling the buzzing, and I'm doing me too. It goes all over my arms, and I can notice that. Okay, cool. And then you would rate it on a level of 1 to 10. What is this buzzing sensation or anxiety or pain or whatever? And whatever's coming up is good. It's not bad. It's your nervous system, and let's accept that. And then it's a scale of 8 out of 10. Cool. Now find something that is pleasant. That may be your big toe, and you want to explore that big toe like you've never seen it before. And what Irene would say is, there was a time in our life when we did that. If you watch babies, they will. I was going to say play with themselves, but I don't know if that's appropriate for this podcast.
No.
But I'm joking. But it's you would explore that toe and notice like is there a temperature? Is there a texture? Is there you can rub your fingers together very slowly, and you can feel the texture of your finger and thumb, right? So you're just getting really curious, and then you go into that, and there may be different things that come up, memories, a color, a picture, a sound you want to make. And then you swing your attention back to that pain, and what you'll notice, it changes. It may change, it may not. And that's what you're doing, is you're titrating that experience. So it may be way too intense to go into it and feel it completely. But so that's why we go in and out of it. And by working with it, it's there for a reason. And what does it want to say? It's like, can you get to know that pain? Can you befriend it? so that, what does it want to tell you? What's it look like? What's the color? What's the sensation? What's the temperature? And you'll be amazed at is what your body will give you. And that's how you work with sensation like that. So I'm curious if you were to go tonight and sit with that and really try to start a dialogue or a conversation, see what you can learn from that sensation.
Right. So I actually, do you know Reorigin?
Maybe it sounds familiar.
I forgot I think his name's Ben. Ben something. Anyways, I had signed up for his brain retraining program, and he had something similar. And you'd lay these cards out on the floor, and then you'd step on one of them, and then you would try and bring up that emotion that you're feeling, and then you would walk to the next step, and then there was like a whole step. Well, not now. Let's think of something better. Or I think what he said was like, let's feel that emotion and let's delete it. Like, get rid of it. Let's let our brain know that we're safe and like okay. And then you'd move, and then you'd do like a visualization pattern, and then you'd go and you'd like cycle through all of that. That sounds similar to
The only thing that I would say to that is that is in line with what I'm talking about. But there's one little detail that I've learned. If we have been in survival stress for a long period of time, we've been managing an illness, we've had accident, we've had death, to say to our nervous system, you're safe, it's like, you and I were talking about this on Instagram. And I would do that to myself, and it's almost like, huh? What are you talking about, bro? Window of tolerance? I don't even know what a window of tolerance is. And so here's how you do that. You make a suggestion. You are always working with, so if that anxiety comes up, it's like, oh, hey, there's anxiety. You're welcome here, just like you said. And it's almost like, man, you have been working your butt off for a long time. I can feel, man, you are tired. That must be exhausting. Mm-hmm. So here's a suggestion that I'm going to offer. What if, I'm being very careful with the way what if we just took it down a notch? What would that be like? Not even saying, hey, chill out, bro. It's more like, what would it be like to even dial that down 1 or 2 notches? Mm-hmm. And then you may notice a deep breath. You may notice a lessening of sensation. So it is these little details, and it is what you're talking about is correct. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, right, for those of us that have been in survival stress for a long time, telling it to chill, that we're safe, may be the wrong thing. It's like we want to be present with what is there and acknowledge it and let it know that it can relax and you're cool with that or something. So it's just a tiny shift. But when we're dealing with years of trauma, it's very different than just, hey, relax, man.
Right. Yeah, I think I can't remember really the turning point. Well, I mean, there was a big turning point because I had a lot of fear around food. And when I started to do the kind of like the brain retraining before I ate. Yeah. Huge
I've heard a lot of people have success with. And did you do DNRS?
No,
she talks
could
about
not afford it.
Yeah,
but
it's good. It's okay. I think now looking, it helped me. I'll say this: if you got a chronic illness, especially food and stuff like that, sensitivities, environmental sensitivities, I think that works really well to the limbic system because the limbic system learns to be on alert. But what I've learned after doing that for 2 years, I think it's even deeper than that. I think it's going to the nervous system because the nervous system is going to control that system as well.
Right.
So it all depends on where you're at and what you're able to tolerate. Like there is no linear path. There's no sequential steps. There's no right or wrong. There's no being perfect. And you're going to go backwards. And if you're getting more symptoms, usually you're going in the right direction. And that's why it's so nice to have these tools that we can talk about that have helped us, that we can share with other people so that they have an idea of what might work for them in the moment. Like DNRS was a home run for me back in the day. And now I can see how it could be beneficial at a time, and there may be an opportunity to go deeper too. It just depends on the person and the individual and where they're at.
So what I did I did like tapping. I would tap certain areas of my body and say certain things.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I did that, I slept for like 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like it calmed me down, took me out of that fight or flight, and
Now, do
I
you think
just
it put you into a freeze? So this can happen, and this blows my mind
mm,
too. And this is all like coming from Irene. So even tapping for when somebody has got a lot of trauma, a lot of early stuff, tapping can even be too much. And that's hard to, for the person that fasted 5, 7 days in a row
yeah.
and did all the stuff, man, it's hard to think about. So either you paid attention to it for the first time and acknowledged it and it felt seen and relaxed, but it could also be, I'm feeling this too much and I'm going to shut down. Do you think it was a shutdown or do you think it was a relaxed thing?
I think it was a relax because I should have I didn't actually tap because that was too much. What I did was I
Mm,
just put like pressure
yeah, well, smart,
on the
smart.
areas.
So you're
Um,
titrating the experience. That's what it's all about.
yes, the tapping was too much, and I taught my mom how to do that, and she literally almost she has a hard time falling asleep. She literally almost like she's like I've never felt this calm before, and I'm
So
like
that's so
do
awesome.
this every day, please. Just
I
so
have an
she can
interesting.
just
Keep
a
going. Sorry, I
tool.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, you're fine. I just wanted her to have another tool to get her to another place. And not only that, but I did feel calm. Like um, my sister was trying to get in an argument with me after I did that, and I'm normally hot headed, and I was able to
Mm,
just, I was like, okay, like let's talk about this. Like, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, even I was like, who is this? Why am I so
yeah,
calm?
yeah, man. That's interesting. I love tapping, and I'll tell you how I use tapping too. It was a point in my trauma journey. So when I started doing this, I actually went to somebody to do tapping for my first like therapy type. It was more like somebody's like a yoga instructor and kind of doing therapy, but I didn't know how. I had a lot of sensations, a lot of emotions, and I didn't understand them or what was going on. I didn't know how to say, "Hey, I'm feeling this emotion right now." And so I needed help processing. And I went to this therapist and she taught me how to tap. And so what I would do, I this is how I did trauma therapy with like Irene. So Irene has I'm going to promote her as much as I can.
Yeah.
Smart Body, Smart Mind, 12-week program that she does that saved my life. It was, you have to learn how to titrate that experience and do a little bit at a time. And so I learned that really quickly because I did too much and I couldn't sleep for like 3 or 4 days in a row because I did multiple days instead of just doing one or whatever. And so, what I learned to do, I combined all these experiences. I had a therapist that I was talking to, I was doing this course. Now, the course I would hear something and it would hit me so hard and I would just burst out in tears. So, imagine me for about 2 years walking around the neighborhood crying and not knowing what's going on. And so, but what I would do is I knew that I didn't want to go past that emotion coming up. And so I would hit pause and I would uh, wind it back and I'd say, okay, they talked about this. I would journal. So I would say, okay, I was listening to the first 10 seconds. And sometimes it was 10 seconds of a video. I'd feel something. I'm like, all right, we got to pause. I would journal that out to see what I could get out of my subconscious. And then I would use that to tap. So what tapping did for me was allowed me to go into my subconscious, I think my subconscious a little bit, to kind of pull out, oh, I felt tears when this came up, and that's anger, or that's sadness, or that's um, shame, right? And so, and I would cry, and I would process that, and I would make sure that I would validate that's okay to feel that way. Those are welcome. A lot of things we've been talking about in this. And then I would show up at therapy with my one-on-one person and say, hey, here's here's what I've been working on since we last talked. I talked about this, and help me clean it up. Help me be sure that I have worked through that appropriately. So that's how, and I still use that with my clients because they're like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. What's the emotion you're feeling right now? I don't know. I'm like, all right, well, feel your butt in your chair and feel your back up against the chair, feel your breathing. and let's start tapping. Tap up here. Tell me what happened. And that allows us to slow it down, because before we get to anxiety or insomnia, right, there's a bunch of other things that our body does before that, but we're not paying attention to it because we haven't learned to. And what tapping does, slows that process down, allows you to pull the emotion out, pull the sensation, pull maybe. So it's, what's the emotion? That's like the first level. Where did that come from? And how old was I? How old is that? Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, it may be, and then you'll probably go surface level. Okay, well, that happened last week. No. When were you younger when that first happened? And I love watching this happen because I could not, I didn't know how to do this at all. And watching my clients get this in like one session, I'm like, it's innate. It's built into us to be able to process these things and heal. We just never got taught how to do it.
So let me use you while I got you. So
use me.
I had and this could be why I'm experiencing the insomnia as well. I was in a pretty serious relationship, and that ended in February. Mm-hmm. Now, I was fine for, I was working out. I'm like, all right, let's do this. I was like, let's go. This is great. And I think maybe now I'm actually grieving, and it's coming up in different ways, for sure. I think that, so there's so many things going on, in our lives, and it's hard to, well, is it mold? Oh, maybe, but I also had this happen, and it's a long grieving is a long process, and
everybody does it differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've experienced a lot of death in my life, and I feel like that is a little bit easier for me to experience than breakups, because they're gone. But also, I forgot who talks about this, but it's not necessarily the trauma itself. It's how we perceive it, and how our body is actually taking it on. So breakups for me in the past have always been like traumatic, because I was abandoned, or I didn't have a father figure in my life, or all these things. And so like that wound was always exposed every time a guy left me. It was like, oh, here we go again. Oh, here we go again. And so I think maybe right now I could be experiencing some of that build up, because I haven't been able to cry. And like, I just noticed that I cry a lot, and I have not been able to cry in the past couple months. And
do you feel like you're holding it in?
I don't know. I don't think so.
So what you just communicated was fear of losing connection, right? So fear of loss, like losing someone is tough if they're old or sick or whatever, but especially someone who's alive and we had a connection with. So losing connection, I mean, thinking back to our ancestors, right? That meant death. If you get kicked out of the tribe, kicked out of the relationship, whatever relationship that is, that means death, right? Because if we were together, we can fight off predators and survive a lot better chances. But that DNA, that reaction is cooked into your human experience, and it's not like it's going away anytime soon, right? And so that's a big thing that happened is losing this connection. And so that fear of losing connection is likely what's coming up, right? And so what you said when you initially said, I was fine, you sound very certain in that. And so I hear like suppression a little bit. That's why I asked, are you like pushing it down? And I think pointing to, not to like, dig too much, but like I hear a little bit of suppression, and then it's coming up now, and it's almost like we want to shame ourselves, shame our reaction to it, instead of like letting grief just go. And so we hold it in, we bottle it up, and it hurts. It's like traumas are like farts, right? Because if we hold them in, it hurts, and if we let them out too fast, it can clear a room, right? So what we want to do is we want to address them one by one as they come up. And so I think, I don't, and that's how trauma goes. It's not like does that resonate at all? Or am I on to something there or no?
I mean, I'm still trying to, I don't know. I feel like the Lord's really provided a lot of people in my life, and that we've been, I've been working through. I'm reading a book right now called Unmet Expectations. So like, there's things that I'm working through with that, and just really accepting what the Lord's, given to me, but also realizing that, what I had wasn't for me. Like, because I wanted it so bad. I struggle with idolization a lot. And
Put them on the pedestal.
yes. And so when that pedestal falls down and they leave, it can be devastating.
Where do you put yourself at?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I need to think about that, because I need to value myself more. For sure.
Well, that's the whole trauma thing, is we as a protective mechanism, we learn to say that we're bad, that we're wrong, and we neglect or completely close off like parts of ourself. And so I was exploring that in therapy today, like parts of me that I haven't let feel a certain way. And so that's just another exercise of get quiet and listen and dig. I love journaling. I love, if you can journal and tap and just get quiet and pay attention. But, when we have child trauma early on, we learn to quit listening to our voice, because to get the love, the connection, the safety, we've got to depend on other people. And a lot of times that means shutting down our authentic self, our authentic emotions, and even hating those parts, because that's what we learned growing up, And so I wonder if there's any of that.
Probably. I've been in some, I would say, I guess, toxic relationships, but just, the wrong person. And I've had to, there was a personality trait that I carried that they didn't like, and they would tell me, "Oh, I don't like that about you," and then I would change for them. And that, I definitely tried to be a chameleon.
I thought that was my superpower.
Yeah.
That I thought I was really good, and I could be anybody for any self. But that's what I'm doing there, is I'm suppressing my authentic self. I'm saying I gotta, to feel safe or feel whatever, feel validated, I need to shape shift for this person. And that's good in sales, I think. but I don't think that it's good for our personal life, because it's on some level we're saying that part of me is too much or bad or not good, and so I'm gonna not bring that into, and then you're not your whole self, And,
I mean, I think I had, because what we had talked about, I was carnivore for 2 years, and I realized that I was still overeating even on carnivore, and it became until I really took a step back and acknowledged that I was using food as a coping mechanism, is when I was able to actually like expand my diet and be more in control of things. Like I can have a bag of popcorn or a bag of chips in my house and not binge on it like I used to. Once I became aware of, okay, I'm stressed right now. I need to go to the Lord. I need to go work out. I need to go take a walk. I need to do something else and not resort to the food. And obviously,
or process that before you use the thing.
Yes,
right?
that's what I was going to say.
And
or
the food. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and get to the root cause. Like, well, if I go on a walk, I love walking because I just I feel like I process a lot of things when I walk.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. So like taking a walk, processing it, like, okay, like, why do I feel this way? What's going on? Oh, okay, Lord, like, talking to the Lord, just getting it out, instead of just stuffing it down with
or hamster wheeling.
Yeah.
Like that's a big, it's called intellectualizers. I've learned this term recently, and it's like, if what we're feeling in our body is too much, we retreat into our head to try to figure out and create safety. And we can use any kind of coping, healthy, you said food's good for us, but not when we take it to a certain level. Exercise, drug, whatever that may be. But it's if we can slow that down, right? And first we have to recognize our patterns, and you did a great job. I'm using food. And so it's like in the moment when you notice it, it's like that's where you can really slow things down. And like, why am I doing this? Oh, I'm afraid right now, or I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling anxious. Well, what is that? Where am I? And that's the whole process of going back into the body to work with it instead of what you've always done. And it may be that's what we continue to do until eventually it's not as hard. It's more we build enough capacity that we can sit with the intense sensations that we've been avoiding for a long time.
Right. Right. And I'd hate to wrap this up, but I know a lot of people don't like to listen for so long. But for the last question, what is one thing that you would suggest for people dealing with Lyme or mold or chronic or just anxiety, just stress in general? What is one thing that you would tell them to start doing?
Love yourself. Trust yourself. Give yourself that grace. When we're experiencing unwanted symptoms, and we've been dealing with that for a long time, we can start to identify with those symptoms and feel like they are us. There's nothing wrong with your body. For 20 years, I looked trying to figure out what was wrong with me. There was nothing ever wrong with me. My body was responding very appropriately for what I had been through that I had ignored for so long. And so it's give yourself that grace. You've been through a lot. Show yourself a little bit of compassion. And that journey of loving yourself and accepting all parts of you, and loving yourself, that's the journey. That's how we get better.
Yeah. When I first got sick, I would go into these Lyme pages or POTS pages, and they would identify with their illness, and they would like pretty much brand themselves.
Yeah.
And that just really, it almost broke my heart, because I'm like, that's not who you are.
Yes.
That's not who you are. And my identity, me personally, my identity is in Christ, and I'm not going to label, like, I can't even have a hard time still like saying I have Lyme. I'm like,
I can't even hardly talk about it. I can't follow the pages that are talking about like, oh, well, I have Lyme, so life sucks. And I'm like, I know life sucks, dude, but like, we can't, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
That's just what you're dealing with right now.
I'm experiencing this disease, and it's challenging, but I'm still here. There's purpose.
Stay off those pages.
I'm still here.
Maybe that's the advice.
Yeah. All right, Mitch. Well, thank you so much. I'll have to have you on again, talk more about trauma and all that fun stuff. So
yeah, man. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to the Controlled Health Podcast. If you have not been here before, my name is Andrea and I am your host. As always, please remember that anything that is mentioned in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please seek a healthcare professional if you have any questions or want to implement anything that is talked about. In today's episode, I got the pleasure of interviewing Mitch Webb. Mitch is a personal health coach for men and all those who are needing to find unique paths to healing. He has been a certified health coach since 2016. And he's helped more than 100 people get their specific plans, personalized tools, helps keep accountability, and helps support anything they need to help change their lives for good. Mitch has been through so many challenges, Mitch has been through so many health challenges, including Lyme disease, 2 traumatic brain injuries, long COVID, weight loss resistance, mold toxicity, and mental health challenges. After, like most of us who deal with chronic illness, he had gone to multiple doctors and could not find answers, which then drove him to do his own research and start his healing journey on his own. He's able to find specific lifestyle changes, to get him back to a healthy and better him. No. Mitch was able to find specific lifestyle choices that allowed him to heal himself and get his life back. Now he provides life coaching, now Mitch provides very compassionate coaching, now Mitch provides his coaching clients with deep compassion, expertise, and partnership, which he longed for when he was going through his health challenges. Also, he has a special offer to all those who are listening. He is offering a free health assessment for 30 minutes via phone call, and you can sign up for that at his website. It's mitchwebb.com/contact. Again, it's mitchwebb.com/contact. I'll put it on the video, and I'll also link it below in the show notes so you guys can find him. I'll also link his Instagram and any other social media that he has so you can find him. Anyways, without further ado, I hope you guys find this podcast encouraging. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Also, give this video a thumbs up, a comment, anything like that. It would definitely help us reach more people. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the Controlled Health Podcast. If you have not been here before, my name is Andrea, and I am your host. As always, please remember that anything that is mentioned in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please seek a healthcare professional if you have any questions or want to implement anything that is talked about. In today's episode, I got the pleasure of interviewing Mitch Webb. Mitch is a personal health coach for men and all those who are needing to find unique paths to healing. He has been a certified health coach since 2016. And he's helped more than 100 people get their specific plans, personalized tools, helps keep accountability, and help support anything They need to help change their lives for good. Mitch has been through so many challenges, including health challenges, including Lyme disease, 2 traumatic brain injuries, long COVID, weight loss resistance, mold toxicity, and mental health challenges. After, like most of us who deal with chronic illness, he had gone to multiple doctors and could not find answers. Which then drove him to do his own research and start his healing journey on his own. He's able to find specific lifestyle changes. He was able to find specific lifestyle changes to get him back to a healthy and better him. No. Mitch was able to find specific lifestyle choices that allowed him to heal himself and get his life back. Now he provides life coaching. Now Mitch provides very compassionate coaching. Now, Mitch provides his coaching clients with deep compassion, expertise, and partnership, which he longed for when he was going through his health challenges. Also, he has a special offer to all those who are listening. He is offering a free health assessment for 30 minutes. Via phone call, and you can sign up for that at his website. It's mitchwebb.com/contact. Again, it's mitchwebb.com/contact. I'll put it on the video, and I'll also link it below in the show notes so you guys can find him. I'll also link his Instagram and any other social media that he has so you can find him. Anyways, without further ado, I hope you guys find this podcast encouraging. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Also, give this video a thumbs up, a comment, anything like that. It would definitely help us reach more people. Thank you. Enjoy the show.